Ambassador Brian, welcome back. You are the third in a row. I've had Dr. Michael Oren this morning. I've had on Dr. Jonathan Schanzer, and they have both said Israel must respond to Iran's attack. What do you think?
Absolutely. And the United States has to be there with Israel. We have to have Israel's back. I mean, Iran has taken an unprecedented action. It's like Pearl Harbor. If the Japanese had attacked Pearl Harbor and then said, okay, we're done, don't hit us back. I mean, this is ridiculous. And unfortunately, they're getting support from the Biden administration. It's apparently telling Israel to, quote, take the win and not respond after having 300 missiles and drones, sent against the state of Israel. It's outrageous.
Well, Dr. Oren said that you cannot win a war playing defense. I don't understand what President Biden and your successor, Jake Sullivan, and Secretary Blinken are doing. What are they doing?
So, look, this is a continuation of the Obama administration policy of appeasement of Iran. I mean, they believe in their hearts, and they've shown this over the years that if we pay Iran enough money, if we're nice to Iran, that somehow Iran will change its behavior, and it just won't. Iran can't be bribed out of hating America and hating Israel. And what we need to do, Hugh, at this point is help Israel do, number one, is take out the drone factories and the ballistic missile factories. I mean, Iran can't be trusted with those type of weapons. The Biden administration allowed the UN resolution that kept Iran from selling those weapons to other countries to expire. We need to put sanctions back on Iran on the weapons front. We need to destroy their capability because those drones are killing innocent Ukrainians and killing innocent Israelis. I mean, the Biden administration seems to care much more about Ukraine than it does about Israel, which that's their prerogative. But whether you care about Ukraine or Israel, you got to stop the Iranian production of these weapons because they're being used against innocent civilians in both places.
If the West doesn't do anything, Ambassador, if Israel doesn't do anything, are there any? I mean, if they just say, "Okay, we're done," are there any circumstances under which you could imagine Team Biden striking at Iran's nuclear capacity if they attempt breakout? Because I sure can't.
No, and it goes to what's happening in Gaza as well. We've had these Hamas terrorists who are as bad as ISIS or worse. After killing 30 Americans on October 7th and then taking Americans hostage, we're treating them like they're some sort of NGO or legitimate political party. It's time to start treating them like ISIS.
What do you think MBZ and MBS think about? You've dealt with both regimes in Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. What do you think they are seeing as this unfolds?
Well, number one, I think it's been shown the enduring value of the Abraham Accords that the Trump administration helped broker, and they opened their airspace to Israeli aircraft. They helped defend Israel. So I think that's a very important development that we've seen. But number two, they're watching to see which is the strong horse. Is it Israel, the U.S., and the West that they should align with? Or are they going to have to make an accord with Iran if they see Iran able to attack Israel with no response? Israel is much more powerful militarily than either of the Gulf states, and they've got to make a decision. Do they join with the appeasement wing of the Democrat Party and appease Iran and allow Iran to become Finlandized in the Gulf region, or do they stand with the U.S. and the West and democracy and sovereignty? And they're waiting to see what they have to do, and a strong response from Israel and the U.S. to Iran would keep them on side. If not, we can expect to see slippage in our alliances in the region.
When I've also asked Dr. Oren and Dr. Shazner this morning, what do you think Sinwar is thinking in his tunnel in Hamas's last redoubt in Rafah? Do you think he was happy by this, or does he know his days are numbered now?
Well, I think he's probably happy at the response to the U.S. telling Israel to take the win and not attack Iran back. But this goes with the point I was making. We should start treating Sinwar and Hamas like ISIS. We destroyed the physical caliphate of ISIS when they engaged in the terrorism that we saw Hamas engage in. And we took out the leadership. We took out Baghdadi. We destroyed the physical caliphate. And here we've done nothing of the sort. These people have killed these terrorists and serial killers and psychos. They killed 30 Americans. They've still got American hostages, and we're treating them like they're some sort of NGO or some sort of friendly political party that we should negotiate with. It's time to get the Delta Force and SEAL Team 6 to start rescuing our hostages and destroy the last of Hamas, whether it's in Gaza or their leadership outside of Gaza, and put an end to Hamas. send a message to Iran through that process as well that you can't have proxies attacking America and Israel and our interests and getting away with it. Right now, Hamas thinks they've won the war. They've said that publicly.
And they rejected yesterday, lost in all of the news about what Iran did and Israel's response. Yesterday, Hamas rejected the latest ceasefire offer and made a counteroffer, which is absurd as everyone else thinks. Is that all for show for the Biden administration? What is happening with these counteroffers and rejections and demand? Negotiate against yourself again. You got a lot of hostages out. Did you ever get a hostage out by negotiating against yourself?
Look, weakness is provocative, and we've talked about this on the show over the years here. That peace through strength, works and brings about. We talk about the strength part, about rebuilding the Navy, about rebuilding the military, exercising U.S. force judiciously, but with intent. And the result of doing all that, it's not just the strength part of the equation. You get peace as a result. So, we saw after Baghdadi and after restoring deterrence with Iran, with maximum sanctions and taking the actions we needed to defend our embassy in Baghdad, we saw peace in the Middle East. And, that's what led to the Abraham Accord. If we want peace in the Middle East, you can't get it by appeasing the worst terrorists that we've ever seen. I mean, terrorists worse than ISIS. When you look at what Hamas did on October 7th. You have to put Hamas in a corner, and the only way we're going to get the hostages back is if they know that their days are numbered. Sinwar and his ilk are happy to send, young Palestinians and half of them are retarded or mentally deficient to go blow themselves up with suicide bombs. They don't want to do it themselves. They're all into self-preservation. Same with the Iranian regime. So we need to put them at risk, and when they're at risk, then that's when they'll let the hostages go, and that's when we'll get some real movement on the peace process.
Last question, Ambassador O'Brien. What does Putin think of all this? I mean, what lessons must he be drawing from Biden saying, take the win, David Cameron saying, don't escalate? I just have to think Putin is studying this and running to the wrong conclusions for our best interests.
Well, Putin's bogged down the war in Ukraine. I mean, he's certainly happy to see this. He's happy to see us with our interest and focus diverted to the Middle East. But the real winner here is Xi Jinping. It's China. And China is stoking this conflict and stoking the anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment here in the U.S. through TikTok. And so TikTok is a haven for pro-Hamas, pro-Iranian propaganda in America, and we're allowing it to take place. And for every bomb, every missile, everything that's diverted to the Middle East, it's a win for Xi Jinping as he prepares to take Taiwan. So he's watched Ukraine, he's watched Putin invade Ukraine with very little consequence, with no real sanctions against Russia. Russia's probably more oil now than it ever has before, making more money with high oil prices. Putin himself is getting richer. He's watching the Iranians attack Israel and Israel being told by its ally and protector of the United States, don't do anything in response. And now he's thinking this has got to be great for Taiwan. And why shouldn't I take Taiwan? These are the sort of people we're dealing with.
We have to unpack that, Ambassador O'Brien. We have Steelers fans listening, so we have to unpack why China thinks this is great and the TikTok angle. I got it, but I'm not sure the Steelers fans are going to get it.
Well, look, you're a little tough on the Steelers fans, but coming from a Rams fan, the Chinese are watching what happened in Ukraine, and they saw that America did not sanction the Russian Federation Central Bank. We claim we put tough sanctions on the Russians after they invaded their neighbor. We didn't put tough sanctions on the Russians. Russians are selling oil, gas, agricultural goods, commodities at very high prices, and those prices have increased because of the war, so they've benefited from the war they started. So they've seen no real reaction to Russia's invasion of Ukraine other than supplying Ukraine with the weapons it needs to defend itself. They're now watching Israel with an attack directly. First of all, directly by, and I would take the position that October 7th was a direct invasion and an attack by Iran because Iran funded Hezbollah and Hamas with the sanctions relief it received from the U.S. And I've seen no response to Iran. Iran's gotten away with attacking Israel, at least so far, unless the Israelis respond. So Xi Jinping is looking at the big picture of Taiwan, thinking, well, there's been Russia hasn't suffered a serious consequence from invading Ukraine. Iran is being told that they're going to suffer no consequences for invading Israel. Why shouldn't I invade Taiwan and take it right now with Biden's still in office? he's got just about a little less than a year before Biden leaves office. If the American people elect Donald Trump to return to office, he's got a year of this sort of weakness to exploit, and so it's very tempting for him. And that's why you see TikTok and other Chinese influence operations going full speed ahead to divide Americans and polarize us and support Iran and Russia.
So TikTok is a Chinese influence operation? That's your point?
TikTok is, no question about it. It's an espionage operation, so we can collect information on 170 million Americans and get all your passwords and data and everything on your phone, financial, healthcare records, your social media, everything. You've got all your passwords, but it's also a propaganda tool that they can use these algorithms to divide Americans and spew out pro-Hamas, pro-Iran, pro-Russian propaganda to divide Americans on those issues. So it's a very pernicious tool that's being used to full effect right now during this Israel-Iran conflict. And China wins big because our focus is diverted to the Middle East while they prepare to take Taiwan.
I hope every senator is listening to that, because the House passed the divestiture from TikTok bill, and the Senate has done nothing. Should the Senate take that up, Mr. Ambassador? We got less than a minute. Should the Senate pass that TikTok bill immediately?
Absolutely, we should fully ban TikTok, but the House bill is kind of the best compromise we can get so far. So we should take half a loaf, and at least return TikTok to American hands. And Chuck Schumer, who has called for regime change. It's interesting. Senator Schumer called for regime change in Israel, told the Israeli people to send Bibi Netanyahu packing rather than calling for regime change in Iran. He's now holding up the TikTok bill from the Senate floor. It needs to go to the Senate floor. It needs a vote, and we need to take the first step to regulating this very pernicious Chinese